Hello students, I am Dr. Prakash. Welcome you all for the online class on International Marketing Strategy. The last module in the syllabus is Documentation and Emerging Markets, and in this class we'll discuss about the documentation part in international marketing. To begin with, what is export documentation? It is the paperwork that is required for an export sales transaction. The means by which the shipping process is facilitated and recorded. The documentation is essential for moving goods through the channels of distribution, transferring the responsibility or possession, clearing goods through customs, and facilitating payment according to the agreed upon terms. So, what is the purpose of export documentation? The export documentation provides evidence that the negotiated terms between the buyer and the seller have been complied with. So, this is essential if the seller wishes to get paid. The export documentation provides important information that is used by the seller, the freight companies, governments, and the buyer. The key information contained in export documents are the description about the goods, the mode of transportation, that is rail, air, or ocean, terms of sale, that is who pays for what, origin of the goods, identity of the seller or the shipper, identity of the buyer, terms of payment, shipping instructions, and evidence of shipment. The common export documents that are used are pro forma invoice, bill of lading, certificate of origin, packing list, commercial invoice, shipper's export declaration, consular invoice, inspection certificate, insurance certificate, dock or warehouse receipt, letter of credit, and draft. Now let's move on to the meaning of each of the terms that are used in documentation. The first one is pro forma invoice. It is basically a price quote. It describes the type and quantity of the goods to be shipped, value of the goods, total cost of the transaction based on the terms of sale and other specifications. And bill of lading means it is a contract between the seller and the carrier. The bill of lading is usually prepared by the carrier of forwarder. It documents the condition of the goods upon the carrier's acceptance. It is negotiable when it is consigned to order of, meaning the buyer is allowed to take possession of the goods. Another term is certificate of origin. So it's a statement required by some countries that certifies the origin of the exported goods. For example, the NAFTA certificate of origin. And packing list means it is an itemized list describing the contents of each package in a shipment. These are used in determining the total weight and volume of a shipment and for verifying the cargo. And commercial invoice means it is basically a bill for the goods from the buyer to the seller. And ACD is a document required to be filed for every shipment exceeding $2,500 in value. It is used by the Department of Commerce to gather statistical information on the types, volume, value, and destination of products exported from the United States. Consumer invoice means it is a document required by some foreign governments for identifying and controlling imported goods. An inspection certificate means it is a document required by some foreign governments that certifies that the goods imported conform to the order. Insurance certificate is a document providing proof that the cargo, that is goods shipped, have been properly insured with the amount and type of insurance. Dock or warehouse receipt means this document transfers accountability from the seller to the carrier. Letter of credit is a letter from your customer's bank to you in which the importer's bank guarantees payment provided that all the terms stated in the letters are met. Draft is an unconditional order in writing from the drawer to the drawee that directs the drawee to pay a specified amount to a named drawer at a fixed or determinable future date. Now let's move on to the guide for documentation preparation. So firstly, they have to ensure accurate document preparation. The services of a freight forwarder should be sought. However, the exporter should understand the essentials of document preparation and at least review the prepared documents. Then is to seek explanation and instructions from the freight forwarder. Then they have to determine the required documents for a given country and transaction. An exporter can solicit the service of a freight forwarder. He can consult the exporter's encyclopedia or the National Trade Data Bank. So both are available at the center. Then he has to contact commercial attaches in the target markets, that is Foreign Agricultural Services Overseas Office and the United States Department of Commerce Overseas Contact List. Then what is a freight forwarder? The freight forwarding professional advises clients of the best rates, routings and modes of transporting goods to or from any area in the world. The forwarder is the exporter's agent and provides the traffic and documentation services consistent with the exporter's needs, arranging for carriage with vessel operators, trucking companies, and airlines specializing in the consolidation of container load shipments. Using the many resources at their disposal, forwarders find the right match of services available so that the products are moved by the most timely and cost effective means. As to customized services to fit the client's operational needs or forwarder's specialty. Forwarder coordinate arrangements for storage, pick and pack operations, consolidation of full container movements as well as inland transportation to provide clients with true door-to-door service. From assisting with initial quotations or preparations of pro forma invoices to banking clients documents for collection, the professional ocean and or air freight forwarder is an essential component in the facilitation of international trade. Now let's move on to the steps involved in the documentation process. Firstly, you have to receive the order under accepted terms and consult with a banker or a freight forwarder. Then they have to begin organizing information for required export documents and export license applications. After that, they have to evaluate modes of transportation, requirements for perishable products, and cost of various alternative modes. Then they have to prepare goods for shipping, that is by marking or labeling, packing, consolidating, containerizing, and insuring. And then they have to complete and forward required export documents. Then they have to transport the goods to US port of export. Then they have to transfer the goods to carrier. Then they have to ship the goods and forward appropriate export documents. Then they have to unload goods at foreign port. They have to clear the customs. The transport goods from foreign port to intermediate or ultimate consignee. Here, they have to note that the responsibility for different steps in the documentation and shipping process depends on the terms of sale and the method of payment and collection. Now, let's move on to the terms of sale or INCOTERMS. Understanding the INCOTERMS, also called the terms of sale, is the first step in responding to a trade lead or starting to prepare a quote. It can be defined as an international rule for pricing terms which represent different levels of financial responsibility for the buyer and seller in an international export transaction. The INCOTERMS establish the geographical location where the buyer becomes responsible for the goods. the payment of shipping, handling, insurance, inland freight, etc. The point where ownership of the goods or the title for the goods changes ownership. Rather to note that the terms of sale should always be followed by a physical location so that the buyer cannot surprise the seller and select a costly or infeasible location. The 13 Incoterms that are used in documentations are EXW, that is X works, FCA, that is free carrier, FAS, that is free alongside ship, FOB, free on board, CFR, cost and freight, CIF, cost, insurance and freight, CPT, carriage paid to, CPT, carriage paid to, DAF, delivery at frontier, DAS, delivered at ship, DEQ, delivered ex-quay, DDU, delivered duty unpaid, DDP, delivered duty paid. Now let's move on to the definitions of the most commonly used Incoterms. EXW means X works or the geographical locations, which signifies a precise location where the product is made ready to the buyer. When offering a EXW quotation, the price includes only those costs involved up to an agreed point of origin, usually the shipper's factory. The shipper or the seller places the product at the control of the buyer at a concerned place, date, time, etc. EXW costs can include raw or processed product, standard packaging, pallets, banding, shrink wrap, slip sheets, slings, 1-ton big bags, special labeling, translation and printing, inspection certificate, that is phytosanitary, health, quality or export license, bracing or inspecting a container, export packaging. FCA, free carrier. So it is related to geographical location. FCA signifies a precise location where the product is turned over to a carrier or person who will ensure carriage and the goods are cleared for export. When offering a FCA quotation, the price includes those costs involved up to that agreed point, including transportation and loading if required. The free carrier costs can include, in addition to the EXW costs, loading on board carrier, transportation to the carrier, insurance coverage to carrier, which is an optional. FAS, that is free alongside ship. It is related to the port of exit, that is ocean port of exit or state. It signifies a precise ocean port location where the product is turned over to a carrier and the goods are cleared for export. When offering an FAS quotation, the shipper or the seller places the product alongside the vessel. The FAS costs can include, in addition to FCA costs, inland transportation from your plant to the port and port charges including terminal handling or receiving charges or stevedore, wharfage, forklift, offload, etc. Another term that is used is FOB, that is free on board. It is related to the ocean ship at port of exit. FOB ships, rail, ocean port of exit or the state. When offering an FOB quotation, the shipper or the seller places the product over the ship's rail. FOB only applies to sea or water transportation. The FOB cost associated can include loading on board ship and the heavy lift charges. These costs are correct in theory, but actually the loading and heavy lift charges will be included in the shipping cost from the port to the final destination, which the buyer will pay. Another term is CFR, that is cost and freight. It is related to the foreign port of entry. It signifies that the seller loads the product on board a carrier, clear the goods for export, arranges and pays for the ocean freight and other charges. The risk during carriage is transferred to the buyer and the goods change hands when they pass the ship's rail at the port of shipment, that is the final destination. CFR charges are associated with and include, in addition to the FOB costs, ocean freight, fuel adjustment factor, currency adjustment factor, destination delivery charges or container service charges. Another term is CIF, that is cost, insurance and freight. It is also related to the foreign port of entry and it signifies that the seller loads the product on board a carrier, clear the goods for export, arranges and pays the ocean freight and other charges. The seller insures the shipment and the goods change hands when they pass the ship's rail at the port of shipment. The costs associated with CAF include, in addition to CFR, marine cargo insurance. And finally, to note that the previous definition and the list of costs are general. These definitions and the terms, shipping regulations, etc. often change according to the requirements. For these reasons, it is highly recommended that the services of a freight forwarder are enlisted as freight forwarders are aware of any changes. In the next class, we will discuss about the remaining aspects under documentations and emerging markets. Thank you.